Oh no. My tube. It's broken. So, future editing Willis here. For some reason, I forgot to mention I filmed this on the 4th of July. So if you hear any loud noises, just assume they're fireworks. Happy late 4th of July. But seriously though, if you regularly ride your bicycle over all sorts of terrains, then you're bound to pick up all kinds of debris in them. And if it's a simple puncture, you might be able to mend it yourself. First off, check the tire over. Then you remove the tire. You can do this with basic wrenches or any wrenches that you have. Then you get yourself a patch kit. Of course, there is a way of using rubber cement and an older tire to patch it, which is a rather traditional means of patching a tire. There's multiple types of patches. Some that you glue, some that are just stickers, and like I said, your more traditional rubber type. This could save you in the long run, where you can stretch a few more miles out of that old tube versus purchasing a new one. First, you check it for any irregular or foreign looking objects. There's one. There's another. So when you've located those, you can use a device to mark it so you can come back later, because you're not going to want this, which looks like a thorn, to punch a new hole in your patched tire. There's many markers and crowns that you can use. This is just a silver Sharpie, and I can just go like that. And then there was another spot that I wanted to check out. I think it might just be a rock and a little gap, but right there, little arrow to point to it. Right here is that rock, that maybe a piece of metal or a piece of rock, and then right here is where I think the problem is. I think that's a thorn. So, hardware that you need to remove. This bike is a single speed, a lot like a lot of children's bikes and basic bicycles. So it's got a screw here that retains this arm so that you can essentially brake by pedaling backwards, and 2 bolts with a single chain and a single sprocket. Using your trusty basic they try to put as many tools as they can get in one of these kits. I will remove that. Not that it's the highest quality kit in the world. You see, I've already bent that wrench. Make sure to hold on to this so you don't lose it. And look at that. I managed to straighten the wrench. It's at this point that I realize I need a much more substantial wrench. lift it up, you pull the chain back and off, laying it aside gently, and then pull your wheel out. So now you've got your tire off. If it is already low on air, then you can start to do the procedure, pinching procedure, to get it off. If it is not low on air, then you're going to want to find the valve stem. There's a couple different types, and hold the little Schrader valve inside of it open so that the air escapes. Then what you do is you go around it doing this number, and all this does is break it free from the bead, and it allows it to build slack, as it were. See, each one of these has a little V shape in the rim in the center, and that allows you to have some slack. Now, what a lot of the pro bicyclists do is they take their little tools here, they hook it like this, being careful not to pinch the tube, and they bring it over the rim. And a lot of them will take your second one and pry up in a different spot, allowing it to come over like that. And some of them will pull it like a zipper. Now, if you're pulling like a zipper, you want to be really careful it's not next to your tube, because that'll put a gouge in your tube, and then you'll have to worry, you'll have a whole nother problem on your hands. But at this point, you could actually, in some tires, like this basic one that's got a lot of space, you can actually use your fingers and just pull it off the rim manually, like so. Others, you'll want to use those tools so you won't beat yourself up. Now, finding where your valve stem is, which is right here, you're going to want to remove towards the valve stem. So you go to the opposite side of the valve stem and pull your tube out. Like I said, some will be tighter than this, but you pull your tube out like so to your valve stem area. Then you can move, pulling your tube out. What you want to do at this point is you can open it up and look down inside it, see if you can't see what it is that had caused the puncture in the first place, or to see if there's a blowout. Since I'm at home and I'm not on the side of the road, I might pull the rubber completely off, just for, sorry about that, just for the ease of checking the tubes. So, inside my rim, something that you might check if you have the ability to take off your wheel is checking the spokes, because they come through your rim and they could puncture your tire or your tube on the bottoms, on the inside of the tube. And so you check to see if anything's rubbed through your insulator here. This has got a really thin one, but it was an affordable bike. So far I'm not seeing anything out of the normal, and everything seems to be lined up there. Rim is really straight. Like I said, it's a really affordable bike, so you never really know what you're going to get. I then look inside my tube. Some people use their fingers, but you gotta be careful, because if you have glass or like cactus spines, you can really cut up your fingers, and you don't want to do that. But see, the inside of it all looks the same, and so you're just looking for any abnormal looks. This is also a good time to remember that I marked it, and so you can look through, and right about where that is, there's the tiny little point. I don't think you can see it, but there's a tiny little point of that thorn that I marked right here. I can see it. That's probably my culprit right there. Let's check that piece of glass or rock that was in here. So that's right there. There does not seem to be anything there. So it is most likely, yeah, it is just a little rock that has worked its way into a hole or a weak spot on my tread. So we're going to remove this thorn. I can pull it aside and you can see it a little bit better there. Maybe. A little bit. Yeah. That little guy's the problem. Now with your tube, if you're on the side of the road, of course you're wanting to get this done quickly. My kit comes with a little inflator. You don't want to go, if you're going to use an air compressor, you want to be like a quick. You don't want to, because without the hard trim, this will inflate past its size, but that's good for checking leaks anyways. So insert it like so. Now that I have it inflated slightly bigger than normal, I can go around looking for where my leak is. I can put it up to my ear like so. Up. Let's see, I can feel it a little bit with the hair on my cheek. Oh yeah, little guy right there. And so I'm gonna take my little marker pen, and I'm not gonna go directly where I'm gonna put the patch. I'm going to put some arrows a little ways away from it. That way it's easier to clean. I don't have to clean off the marker. It's a good time to check for other leaks. And there's a spot here. I might put one of my sticky patches on that. Because if it's leaking, it's a tiny leak, but that I might have done something to it. Here's this rub spot right here. That's either a factory defect or something's been rubbing right there. Checking my valve stem. It does not sound like it's leaking. Another way that you can do this that I've seen people do, put it in a water bath to check for leaks. I guess that wouldn't work that great on the side of the road. You have a spare tube, you put the spare tube in. You can take this one home, water bath it, dry it, do your mending. So now it's time to patch it. Now there's several types of patches. The style that we get with my universal kit is just some glueless patches. I call them stickers. Some people call them scabs, but they're pretty much just a sticker. It comes with one of these scraper file things and a buffer, they call it. And I'm not the biggest fan of these because it doesn't seem to do a very good job cleaning the area. What I'll be using for the actual hole is one of these more traditional rubber patch kits with the rubber cement. Again, this one comes with a scraper, but I got a little bit of sandpaper and I'll use that instead. This one There's a little pinhole right here. This one here is some, I don't know if that's some manufacturing marks, but I'm going to put a little sticker over that. And I'll put a sticker over this one because that one seems like it seems like a hole, but it wasn't leaking. But better safe than sorry. It's so small. But I'm going to run a little sandpaper here to where this kind of shine comes off. And then I'm going to wipe it down with a little bit of alcohol. In this kit they actually say lighter fluid. So here we have dollar store sandpaper. You can pick it up just about anywhere, rather cheap, and you get quite a bit of it. I got a 400 here. Seems pretty good. Just gonna tear a little bit off of it, and that should do me. So I find my spot where the hole is. Again, it's just a little needle point. So I clean that up. And I make sure that I'm going in all sorts of directions. But as I go, it's a little hard to see in this light, but it'll get a little bit dull here instead of shiny. Yeah, you want to move in multiple directions because then it'll have a different hex pattern. You don't have to really like force into it. You're just scratching the surface up a little so it'll have something to adhere to. Now you can use isopropyl alcohol, but you can also use a little bit of water just to clean the area so the adhesive will stick better. So you can give that a bit to dry. Pretty thick. I think this is also a kit that they would use for replacing rubber on like floats and things like that. So it seems to be dry. What I'm going to do, they suggest letting this dry for approximately 5 minutes. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that stuff on there. Go around with a little bit of this. And then I'm going to let that sit for 5 minutes. I'm going to take a couple of these glueless patches and put them over these potential treble marks over here. Putting pressure in the center and dragging it out. That way no air gets trapped under. And those are the stickers or scabs. Glueless patches, they work in a pinch. If you have a spot on the inside of your tread as well, you can put these and they work pretty decent for stuff like that. I just don't know if I would trust them a long time over a actual leak. So, roughly 5 minutes has passed. Let's see here. Oh yeah. It's not like tacky. So, we're going to take one of these bad boys and we're going to peel off the back strip on here. It's exposing nice clean rubber. That's that bad boy. And again, we press on the center and spread out, trying to make sure that no air gets trapped in there. And then some kits have this nice white talc powder that you can put here so that it's not sticky. You can also put your own talc powder. And we let that sit for a little bit. Okay, from there, all we do is air it up and see if our patches hold. Seems to be holding. So let's deflate it and put it inside the rim. Okay, so we have our patch tire, our tube, our tread, and a rim. Now, getting it on the rim isn't too hard because of how lax this tire is, but you may need to use tire bars on a tighter tire. Now that you got it on one side, the hole for the air valve is right here. So we're going to take the rim, take your valve stem, you're going to put it work it. Till it's pushed in and out of its spot. You just real gentle like work that into your tube, or sorry, into your carcass, your rubber. Making sure to keep the tube even. It will do a little of its own settling in the rim, but you're trying to tuck it up into the rubber, up into your tread. Then you work your tire back on the rim. Now that your rubber is up inside the tube, or up inside the tread, you work your wheel back on, little by little, working back to where your valve stem is. So the bottom down here is where my valve stem is. And I'm just working my way to it. Once you've done it a couple times, it's pretty easy to remember how it goes. Then I pinch and relax the tire to where it seats back on the rim, and the tube kind of relaxes into the tread, and then we give her some air. Now that it's got some air in it, we'll put her back on the bike. You want to put your chain back on, and then you want to slide it down in a bit, you'll see kind of where it had been sitting before. Now I'm just going to snug these up just a bit by hand. Want to make sure that your tire is nice and straight in its tread. That way your bike, while you're pedaling, goes straight down the road and your tire wear is normal. This bar back here that had the screw in it, that is very important. I'm pretty sure it has to do with your braking mechanism. On these 1 speeds, instead of having brake handles, you pedal backwards, and that helps you stop. Well, I'm pretty sure that that mechanism exists inside this hub, and so very important to put that back together. Now I want just a little bit of slack, but I don't want a whole bunch of slack in the chain. So I move it to about there. That gives me a little bit. We don't want the chain coming off while I'm going down the road. I make sure that everything's even. Well, about as even as this rim can be. The rim itself just isn't very straight, but the wheel is. So once we find our good spot where we got just a little bit of slack in the chain, then we want to tighten it up. Remember, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, and that's when you're looking at the nut. Making sure that I'm still straight here. I definitely don't want her coming loose on the road. Making sure my brake assembly is tight. Very important. Again, making sure it's straight. Gotta make sure ride seems to be fine. Then I'm going to try the brake function. Brake seems to be functioning just fine. You flip the bike back over. You check your air pressure. Make sure it's good. And then you go test her out. So that's it. That's all it really takes. You'll want to let it sit for a bit. If you have a moment to let it sit for a bit and see if it goes down any. Ride it around some. Sometimes a little bit of weight will change it. Otherwise, that's pretty much all there is to patching a bicycle tube. Hopefully this video helps you out in one way or another. And until I see you again, this is Willis with Fish Not Found. See you later.